Anna used to wake up already tired, even before the day had properly begun. Before her feet touched the floor, her mind had usually sprinted ahead to the worst possible outcome. A late reply from a friend meant something was wrong. A strange pain in her chest meant trouble. An unexpected bill, a work email, a child not answering the phone straight away. Her brain could turn almost anything into a warning siren. And if you've ever done that too, you know how exhausting it is. Anxiety doesn't just make you feel uneasy. It starts telling stories. Convincing, dramatic stories. The kind that sounds sensible in the moment, but leave you tense, distracted, and second-guessing everything. What if this is serious? What if I've missed something? What if I can't cope? Before long, you're not living in the present at all. You're living inside a prediction. That's exactly where Anna found herself. She wasn't imagining danger for fun. Her body felt it as if it were real. Her shoulders stayed tight. Her jaw clenched without her noticing. Her heart would race over things that, in daylight and calm, seemed completely manageable. A small problem could suddenly feel enormous. A normal day could feel like a test she was already failing. The strange thing about anxiety is that it can feel like truth. It speaks with urgency, as if it's protecting you. But often, it's not protecting you at all. It's overreacting. It's pulling your attention towards every possible threat and away from everything that's actually fine. So instead of seeing the full picture, you get stuck in a narrow tunnel, staring straight at danger and missing the context around it. Anna thought she was being careful. In reality, her brain was sounding the alarm long after the fire had gone out. So what is anxiety really doing behind the scenes? Why does it feel so convincing, and why is it so hard to switch off once it starts? That's where things get interesting, because the answer begins with a part of the brain that's meant to keep you safe, but can sometimes take its job far too seriously. Anna could feel it before she could name it. A tightness in her chest, a flicker in her stomach, the sense that something was about to go wrong, even on the most ordinary days. A phone call from the doctor, a late reply from a friend, a strange noise in the house at night. For her anxious mind, each tiny moment arrived wearing the costume of disaster. And that's the tricky part about anxiety. It doesn't usually announce itself as a lie. It sounds sensible, protective, even wise. It whispers, "Don't ignore this. Be careful. Think it through again." But before long, careful thinking turns into endless checking, and endless checking turns into fear. Anna found herself replaying conversations, scanning faces for hidden meanings, and imagining the worst possible outcome just in case. It felt like preparation. In reality, it was suffering. What was happening inside her brain wasn't weakness. It was biology. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, was firing like a smoke detector that couldn't tell the difference between burnt toast and a house fire. Once it sensed danger, it shouted for attention, flooding her with urgency. The problem was that the alarm stayed loud long after the moment had passed. Even when the meeting was over, even when the doctor said, "Everything's fine," even when the text finally arrived, her body was still braced for impact. That's why anxiety can feel so convincing. It narrows the spotlight. Instead of seeing the whole picture, Anna could only see the threat. One awkward expression became proof of rejection. One small mistake became evidence she was failing. Her mind was not just worried, it was editing reality. The facts were still there, but anxiety colored them in the darkest shade possible. If you've ever done that, you're not alone. A tiny thought can snowball into a full-blown disaster movie in your head before you've even had your morning cuppa. And once the brain gets hooked on that pattern, it starts treating the imagined danger like a real one. That's why simple reassurance often doesn't stick. Logic enters the room, but fear has already taken the microphone. The good news is that this pattern can be interrupted, not by pretending nothing is wrong, and not by forcing yourself to just relax, but by learning how to answer the anxious story with something firmer, calmer, and more truthful. That's where things begin to shift for Anna, and it's where they can begin for you too. Because once you can see the trick anxiety is playing, you can finally stop handing it the truth so easily. Anna didn't become calm overnight. It happened in small, honest moments. The first time she caught herself spiraling, She paused instead of obeying the panic. She looked at the thought on the table, almost like it belonged to someone else, and asked, "Is this a fact? Or is this fear wearing a fact's clothes?" That one question changed the shape of the whole room. The threat was still there in her mind, but it wasn't in control anymore. That's what anxiety hates most, being questioned. It wants instant belief. It throws up dramatic images, worst-case endings, and a sense of urgency so strong it feels like truth. But when Anna started slowing the thought down, the spell weakened. She noticed how often her mind jumped from something might happen to something terrible will happen, as if there were no middle ground at all. And once she saw that pattern, she could finally stop treating every alarm like a real emergency. This is where CBT becomes so practical. Not fancy, not abstract, just clear, repeatable tools. Anna began writing down the thought, naming the feeling, and looking for evidence on both sides. What was the actual proof? What was she assuming? What would she say to a friend who had the same worry? Suddenly, the mind that had been acting like a courtroom without a defense started to feel more balanced. Not perfect, just fairer. And that fairness matters, because anxiety thrives on certainty in the wrong direction. It says, if you can imagine it, you must prepare for it. But imagination is not prediction. A nervous system is not a crystal ball. Once Anna understood that, she stopped confusing discomfort with danger. She could feel her heart racing and still remind herself, this is anxiety, not a warning siren from reality. Maybe that's the biggest relief of all. You're not broken for having anxious thoughts, and you do not have to trust every one of them. You can notice them, question them, and let them pass without handing them the keys. If this hit close to home, give the video a like so it can reach more people who need this reminder. And tell me in the comments, what's the lie your anxiety tells you most often? If you want more clear, practical explanations like this, subscribe, because there's a lot more to unpack about how the mind protects us, sometimes a little too hard.